Hello and welcome, I'm Stormo, and if this game looks weirdly familiar to you, it's because it is a game called World of Warcraft, which I've never made a video on before, but which I got some free game time this week. I think Blizzard were giving it to everyone who's had an account cancelled over the past few months. Well, not cancelled, but certainly an account they haven't played over the past few months, and I thought, you know what, why not take advantage of that? And play it and make a video about it. And if you're wondering why I've chosen this particular location in the game, it's because I thought it would be a really cool way of talking about my lengthy time playing World of Warcraft over the years. And I felt that Molten Core, which was of course the first big raid in World of Warcraft, was a good way to do that because it was an area I spent a lot of time in back when I first started playing, and it's coming up, I think in a couple of weeks it'll be 10 years since I first started playing World of Warcraft, and I started playing back when this was essentially still relevant content. Level 60 was the level cap. This was level 60. I'm going to have to kill this guy, I think. There we go, he goes down easily. And back then you had to take 40 people through this area. As you can probably tell, I'm doing this solo right now. This is a level 60 raid. It's the easiest raid in World of Warcraft. It can be soloed. I don't think you need to be more than about level 80 to solo it successfully. So yeah, and yeah, it's really simple. It's got a couple of tricky parts in it. It's called Molten Core, if you missed that. If you're an old-time WoW player, you'll be very familiar with this area. Just wondering if I should wait. So to explain what's actually happening here, there's a whole bunch of bosses we have to kill, and in Molten Core, I think every boss except one is required to be killed. In fact, I think every boss is required to be killed. And I'm just waiting for this boss to cycle back and forth, so I'm just moving around. This character is my hunter. She's my main these days, but she's not the character I played through most of Molten Core with. Back in the day when I first started playing, my main was actually a mage. Back when raiding as a fire mage in this game was kind of terrible, so I need to decide how I'm going to handle these packs. Now, these particular packs, just while we're here talking about it, they'll revive each other if I don't kill them quickly enough, so what I'm going to do is just multi-shot them, if I can. Kill that one, because otherwise this is going to be problematic. Yep, they've all gone down. Okay, it turns out this is a lot easier when you're level 100. I don't think I've actually done this as a level 100 character. You can probably see in the background there's a really large looking core hound. I've got it targeted there. That's Magmadar. He's a boss. We'll be doing him after we clear through these packs. I probably could have rushed this a bit more, but I like to be a little bit safe when I do this. So we're going to kill this guy here. This is a guy called Lucifron. He too is a boss. In fact, he's usually the first boss you ever encounter. For a lot of players who've been playing as long as I have, he was the first ever World of Warcraft raid boss that they ever saw go down. Now, Molten Core is a pretty simple dungeon. It has fairly simple boss mechanics. There's nothing that you need to know about most of these bosses. Most fights are what we call tank and spank. I'll just try and... There we go. That was Lucifron. That used to take 40 people about 10 minutes to kill. And we got Fellheart Gloves, which is Warlock, and we got Earth Fury Boots, which is Shaman. I'm going to pick up every piece of loot I get, and we got an Arcanist Belt, which is Mage. So, to explain what I just picked up, those epic items that I picked up then are the Tier 1 armor sets. These days, they're probably the main reason you would run Molten Core. We're just going to kill this group here, and the reason for that is because they are... just concentrating a bit here. There you go, they all went down. The reason for that is that they are class-specific armor sets that back in the day were about the most powerful thing you could get in this game, at least until the introduction of the next... Oh, hello. Oh, okay, that's not going well. We've got a big problem here. I mustn't have killed something then because it revived. I got both packs on me. It's not a big deal. They're not going to kill me or anything, but I just want to clear them out just in case I get into trouble. I'm going to play this fairly safe. as you can probably tell. So this is Magmadar. He's the second boss. He has the benefit of if you kill him, he would stop core hounds from spawning. And you see that little rune that just exploded? So we got, I didn't even see what that was. Giant Stalker, Hunter Legs, yes. We got Fellheart Pants, we got a Blazing Rune, which... Oh, cool, that's a pet. Awesome. And we got Eshkandar's Left Claw, sorry, which is a fist weapon, which I had on my rogue back in the day too. And this is the rune I was talking about. Back when this was relevant content, you actually had, and you probably see it in the chat log down there, the reputation with Hydraxian Warlords. And that was a thing you had back in the day. I'll just put aspect of the cheater on so I can move a bit faster. And you had to go and do this whole series of quests over in what was the old Azshara. Then it was about the only thing you ever needed to do in Azshara, because it was completely pointless. We don't need to kill these imps, so we're not going to. They could be quite painful to deal with back then as well, because they would just wipe a raid. I've actually been in a raid wipe to those imps. But yeah, so we're just going to come through. You might be wondering why I'm not pulling any of these enemies as I run right past them. It's because I'm level 100 and they're all level 60 for the most part. And what that essentially means is that their level difference, the level difference between me and them is so great that they basically won't aggro on me unless I get right up to them, which is what's going to make this run relatively quick, because I won't need to kill huge swathes of enemies. I'll probably pick off a couple if I get too close or if I accidentally pull something. You're also probably wondering if I'm a hunter, which I am, why I don't have a pet out. That's because one of the current hunter builds is basically petless. And marksmanship has a particular build that encourages petless play. And if I get into trouble, I might dredge out my bear, who's a really good tank. But for the most part, we're going to try and do this as petless as possible. So we'll just sit here and we'll take these guys down. Shouldn't take too long. There we go. The good news about killing these guys that quickly is that they won't use their curses. So we got one goal. We got Giant Stalker's boots, which is again hunter gear, and we got all this stuff. And we got Night Slayer gloves, which is rogue. When I used to raid Molten Core regularly, I was raiding as a rogue, and so Night Slayer was the gear I got. And I ended up getting almost all of it. I actually ended up getting a full set of Arcanist on my mage as well, at around the same time. So that was always really cool. Now the next boss is down around here. I might end up having to kill a couple of things, but I'm going to try and sneak past you. I might use, if I can. No, we won't do that. We'll just see how far we get. But I was thinking I might try and use... No, it looks like I'm not going to need it. Okay, cool. We didn't need to. I was going to use camouflage there. That core hound came right up to me and still didn't aggro. So this boss is called Gar, and I think I've missed a boss, haven't I? Were there two bosses? There's Lucy, then there's this guy, and then... Hang on, let me check my map. Oh no, we did him. Okay, yeah, no, we're right. I always think there's two bosses on the path between Magmadar and Gar for some reason. There's only the one. Anyway, I can't even tell you what the name of that boss was. I killed it that quickly. So that was cool. Oh, Gehennis, that was the name of that boss. He's the one you always forget to do. So yeah. So the reason I just want to talk about Gar for a second. You can see Gar has all these ads. Back at level 60 when this was relevant, you had to control these ads, because if you killed them too quickly, Gar would aggro and wipe the raid. Or he'd basically enrage and wipe the raid. He doesn't do that anymore because we'll kill him really fast. But the other reason I want to talk about Gar is he's one of two bosses in here that drops what's known as Binding of the Windseeker. And that's literally the reason we're here, because I want a Binding of the Windseeker. So we're going to kill Gar. We'll just multi-shot. There it went down. Gar probably enraged. These guys didn't quite go down as quickly as everyone else. We got Core of Earth. We got, oh, he's not dead. Okay. Are they dead now? Ah! I keep clicking on the loot. Okay, they're dead. Okay, so that's Gar. Helm of Might. We got Essence of Earth, Deep Rock Salts, a Lava Core, and a Circlet of Prophecy. So we got Warrior and Priest gear. We did not, however, get our Binding of the Windseeker, which is what I really wanted. I'm just going to play it a bit safe here and use my Camouflage. Camouflage is basically a temporary stealth for hunters. It doesn't work as effectively as Rogue Stealth, but it's just gives you a little bit of safety. I probably didn't need to use it, but I want to be as safe as possible. I'm going to take this core hound out on our way through here, so once he gets close enough, I'll just hit him, and he'll die in a single shot, because that's how powerful we are. That's the difference. Like, that guy would have taken 40 people a minute to kill back in the day. So yeah, so you can see how nice and quick and easy this is these days. And I chose Molten Core because, like I said, it was the first raid, and back when I was raiding World of Warcraft, I don't know why I decided to kill that guy. Back when I started raiding World of Warcraft, there were no Oceanic servers and there were very few Oceanic time guilds, so I had to get up at 7 in the morning to make a raid start time of 8 in the morning. It's Baron Geddon. We're going to do him after we do this guy here, which is Shazra. So we're just going to come over here and Shazra doesn't have any ads. Shazra was probably one of the more complicated fights back then because you had to set your raid up in a particular way to deal with him. Just going to clear this core hound. Yeah, that guy's down, and we aggroed Shazra, so that's cool. He's down as well, not a problem. So we got Night Slayer boots, so that's 2 pieces of rogue gear we've got. Heart of Stone, Element of Fire, and Giant Stalker's gloves, so that's 3 pieces of hunting gear. And as you can see, Baron Geddon patrols right around where Shazra is. Back in the day, you would actually kill both Geddon and Shazra back where you had Gar, right? You clear that whole area out, and you basically do 3 bosses there. You do Gar first, then you'd bring down Geddon. I think the way my raid usually did it was we'd do Geddon next. So what you would need to do is get a hunter to come all the way through here. Usually they'd use their pet to aggro Geddon, who would then follow the pet back to the raid, or kill the pet and then run back to the raid. Here's Geddon, we're going to kill him now. Geddon has a really annoying ability called Living Bomb. It blows you up and knocks you up into the sky, and if you're not fast enough at this level, it can basically really hurt you. Okay, so we got Fellheart, which is Warlock gear, and we got Lawbringer, and we got the recipe for Major Rejuvenation Potion, which we will never use, but still, I am an alchemist on this character, so that's why I was getting the recipe. Unfortunately, we again did not get Bindings of the Wind Seeker, which was what we were here for, really, so that's a bit annoying. Oh yeah, I looted everything else there, yep. So, I used to get up at 7 AM to make an 8 AM raid start time. This was back when I had no life outside of World of Warcraft. Good times, really. They were really good times. And my guild at the time was basically farming Molten Core, which back then what you would normally do is you would farm Molten Core, and then you would move on to the Blackwing Lair, which was usually the raid that everyone was progressing on at the time. And I was online but not present for that guild's first kill of Nefarian, who's the final boss of Blackwing Lair. So yeah, that's Golemag the Incinerator. We'll get to him, and I can hear. I am mentally hearing people talk about the secret cache of loot that hides behind Golemag the Incinerator. We'll get to that too. But what we're going to do first is we're going to head down here. I think this is the only optional boss in the raid, which is... I've forgotten his name. Well, as we get closer, you'll see his name. Sulfuron. That's right. Sulfuron Harbinger. I believe he's the only optional boss. And the way you used to have to do this was he has these Flamewalker priests, which I've just targeted one there. He has these Flamewalker priests, and they will just heal him, so you have to get them down first, and then you have to kill him. I guarantee that's probably... He's not an optional boss, he's got a rune in front of him. Why did I think he was an optional boss? I'll explain what the runes do in a moment. Oh, hang on, I'll just take that guy out. Core Rages and Core... Lava Surges could be really annoying, actually, because they would charge the raid and knock everyone back. You'll notice that didn't happen then, but... okay, let's see how we go here. Yeah, that was easy. Normally the ads die before he does, and the ads have actually got loot. So I've got Night Slayer shoulders. This will be group looted. So Heart of Fire. I got a Mark of Flame, which teaches me how to summon a Harbinger of Flame, and I got a Mantle of Prophecy, and some Morning Glory Dew, and a few other bits and pieces. So that's really cool. So back in the day, that was a really complex fight. Probably the second most complex fight in here outside of the one for Shazra. The Shazra fight involved breaking the raid up into groups, and each group had to be balanced for different classes, so there would need to be a healer, some DPS, and usually there would be a healing group close to the tank. Because the way Shazra worked was that he would charge specific parts of the raid, and he had like this arcane explosion ability that would do a heap of damage, and you had to keep the tank up through that. And various other things. So I do apologise because Molten Core probably isn't the most visually interesting raid in World of Warcraft. It's mostly a giant cave full of monsters that are lava based. Golemag is basically Molten Core's equivalent of what became known later as a patchwork style boss or a DPS test style boss. Basically he was the boss you did that determined whether you could go on and do the rest of the raid, because he requires basically flat DPS. Now he has an interesting mechanic with these two core rages here. They can't die until he does, so what you would need to do back in the day was get at least a tank and a couple of healers to keep the tanks up, fighting those core rages, make sure no one else attacked them, and then you would just get everyone onto Golemag. There's also this secret cache of loot in that thing behind Golemag there, so we're not going to go for it because we don't need it, but yeah. So, okay, I'll come clean on that. A lot of raids I know, and we did as well. Oh, I got a sulfur and ingot. Well, that's good, I guess. We got Arcanist robes, Scenario investments, and a talisman of ephemeral power. So we got two things that I used to have on my mage, which is cool. So yeah, what we used to do to newbies was we'd tell them there was a secret cache of loot up here. They'd walk in here and then they'd die because you'd take damage. And we killed so many new players in our raids back then just by telling them that there was a free cache of loot behind there. And it was bizarre how many of them never actually questioned why none of the experienced raiders were also running up there with them. So I think someone in our raid actually came up with the idea that you could only get it on your first time in Molten Core, but I'm not 100% sure about that. So anyway, so you can set up their Major Domo Executus. Now, all the runes that we've had to clear by killing all of the other bosses in here, without clearing all of those runes, Executus wouldn't spawn. And back in the day, you had to have a thing called Aqua Quintessence, which you got from the Hydraxian Waterlords once you got the right amount of rep from them. These days, I think you get a feat of strength for having had it, because it's actually removed from the game. You don't need it anymore. Executus is probably the most complex fight in here, because you've got all these guys, and Executus himself doesn't die. What you actually had to do was kill all the ads, and force Executus to submit to you. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to take that guy out, because he's going to get really annoying. Yep. Okay. Because otherwise he's just going to rush up here all the time and just make the fight more annoying than it will be. It shouldn't be too hard these days. Like, we'll probably one-shot most of these guys, but back then this was probably the most painful fight in here. So we're just going to fire off some multi-shots, see what I can do.
Mortals. None may challenge the sons of the living.
Executus to this day still has like ridiculous amounts. Yeah, you can see, he only has 321k. You could probably kill him pretty easily now. But you're not supposed to kill him.
Stay your attack.
Okay, so we've got a Cenarian Belt, Demon Bladed Bear,
I submit. Brashly, you have come to rest.
That was just the loot off those guys, so the braces
regret the recklessness of your quest.
and the belt, and I'm sorry, I'm talking over his text here. The braces and the belts are items that can drop off anything in here, so for each of the sets.
Will surely be forfeit.
Yeah.
Nevertheless, seek out his lair if you dare.
So I apologise for talking slightly over that. It's something I've heard a long time ago. But yeah. So what we'll do here is we'll go in here, and we got Fireproof Cloak, which I used to have on my mage, and Wild Growth Spaulders. Now, as a hunter, there was something else that you used to be able to get from there that you can't anymore, which was an item that began a quest for the for a special hunter bow that could also transform into a staff. I should point out the bow I'm using is actually a transmog. It's obviously not Black Bow of the Betrayer, which is what it's transmogged to. It's just whatever bow I've picked up. My gear isn't great. I haven't played this game for about 6 months, and I haven't really bothered gearing for Warlords of Draenor at all. So I'm basically just wearing sort of heroic and pre-heroic blues at the moment, and that's what my bow is as well. I do have a full transmog set, but because I'm upgrading gear at the moment, I'm not actively using it, because I just don't want to transmog gear that I'll then replace fairly quickly. But I'm doing it with my bow because I think Black Bow of the Betrayer... Oh, that was dangerous. I think Black Bow of the Betrayer is probably the best looking bow in the game. It's a shame you can't get the bow that you used to be able to get from here, actually. They've taken that out of the game, unfortunately. And I don't believe there's a way to get it or anything like it at all for the moment. I could be wrong about that. Oh, taking a little bit of damage. Should I pull? No, I got too close. Though these guys, the Flame Guards, have an AoE aura around them that you'll get sometimes. So yeah. So we've done everything in Molten Core. And I just want to point out that this could take several hours back at level 60 with 40 people. It was usually a full raid night for the guild I was in at the time. And even the other guild I was in at the time would take a fair while to do it. I raided Molten Core and Blackwing Lair. We made some progress. The guild I was in made some progress on AQ40, but we actually fell apart because of a particular boss in AQ40 that became impossible for us to clear. So yeah, I probably should talk about why this user interface looks a bit different to what you might expect if you're familiar with WoW. I'm obviously using a couple of UI add-ons. The health meter that you can see here, that's Pitbull, which I've used for years and years and years, and I always put it down there so I've got my target and me right in front of me there. These days you can use things like Ice Hard and various other things like that to get the same effect. I'll just take that guy out, because otherwise he'll probably run straight through us. So see if he dropped anything of interest. No. Pass. Take that guy out. Yeah, because he aggroed on us. So I'll take that guy out. He didn't drop anything. I'm not going to pick that up. Don't need to. You see Major Domo Executus around there, but what you've actually got to do is run all the way around here. I could probably just swim across that lava, but there's only a couple of places where you can actually get up, back up once you get into the lava. I mean, I could survive the swim, but I'm going to run around and do it the old-fashioned way. You see all the runes on the roof here in this chamber? This is sort of the major chamber, and this is where we will fight the final boss of Molten Core very shortly. And I promise I won't talk over that, so if you know what's coming, then yeah, you're gonna get a bit of nostalgia out of it. It's been a bit of nostalgia for me just going through here. I always get a bit of a kick out of doing this. Even if I'm just doing it on my own, not using TeamSpeak and not talking to all the guys I used to raid with, and even if I'm massively overpowered to the point where I'm probably going to one-shot Ragnaros. The Ragnaros fight back in the day used to be really complex. Probably not as complex as either Sulfuron, Shazra, or Major Domo, but it was still a bit tricky because you would generally break everyone up into a couple of groups and they'd stand a few different points. You basically needed a group that could stand in range of the tanks and heal the tanks. And then you needed a group that stood back. This wall here was usually where I stood as a mage. As a rogue, one of the things with the way Ragnaros works, he has a pretty large hitbox, so as a rogue you could stand anywhere on this sort of area that I'm just coming around where Major Domo is here. You could actually basically stand anywhere here. Usually when we did it, we had the tanks here, and so that the knockback, because otherwise you get knocked back into the lava, and the tanks would be angled such that when they got knocked back they'd go back into this wall, and then the rest of the raid would stand on that wall over there. So as you can probably tell, Ragnaros has, and I'm probably, I'm just wondering if I'm gonna need to get a pet out here. I might just get my pet out for safety's sake, because Ragnaros actually has an ability, it probably won't do any damage, but I don't want him to use it. An ability where if no one's in melee range of him, he uses a really powerful ability that will basically wipe the raid. Oh yeah, this is the dialogue. I skipped the first page. Sorry, in fact, can I just bring that back up again? There we go. So yeah, the Fire Lord and his brethren once held sway over this entire world, mortal. As a servant of the old gods, he fought against the Titans for domination of the planet. The victorious Titans banished my master and his brethren to the elemental plane, there to remain imprisoned until the end of time. Hit tell me more. A mere 300 years ago, a reckless dwarf named Thaurison summoned the master from his fiery realm. His return to this paltry world devastated the surrounding lands and created the volcanic core. Mighty Ragnaros has slept under this mountain ever since. We, his sworn servants, do his bidding and enforce his iron rule. Cut off from the energies of his fiery realm, Ragnaros is but a shadow of his true self. However, he has more than enough strength to be your end. And then we say this. It's not quite as badass as what you get to say to Nefarian in Blackwing Lair, but it is pretty cool. So here we go. This is really cool, and I'm not going to talk for this. I'll stand back here, actually.
Behold Ragnaros, the Fire Lord. He who was ancient when this world was young. Bow before him, mortals. Bow before your ending too soon. You have awakened me too soon, Executors. What is the meaning of this intrusion? These mortal infidels, my lord. They have invaded your sanctum and seek to steal your secrets. Fool. You allowed these insects to run rampant through the hallowed core. Now you lead them to my very lair? You have failed me, Executus. Justice shall be met indeed.
That's a really powerful fireball.
5, 4, 3,
Now for
2,
you,
1.
insects. Boldly usurp the power of Ragnaros.
Yep. Boldly we sought the power of Ragnaros. And we shall indeed see it firsthand, which is what he would have said, had I not killed him very quickly. The Ragnaros fight actually has a couple of phases, none of which we got to see then. Every so often he submerges and summons Sons of Flame that you have to deal with. We didn't have to do that because we killed him very quickly. That fight usually takes around 15 minutes for a group of moderately geared level 60. So let's see what he dropped. Okay, we got 3 gold, we got Essence of Fire, we got a Serenity Belt, we got Malister's Defender, which is a shield, we got Bloodfang Pants. This is the tier 2 set. So you might notice all the epic stuff I was picking up, all the armor sets that I've been picking up through this run. They're all the tier 1 sets. When Blackwing Lair was launched, they added tier 2, which was what Bloodfang and Leg Plates of 10 Storms. Crown of Destruction was... it's basically a Shaman gear and Cow King's Hide, because Ragnaros does stuff like that. Didn't drop one of the other things he can drop, which is the Eye of Sulphurus. Sulphurus being that axe there. He didn't drop that for us, unfortunately, so that's a bit annoying, but oh well. But yeah, that's Molten Core, which took a lot less time than I expected it to. I thought it was going to take a bit more time. I haven't actually done Molten Core before now at level 100. Most of my solo runs have been done at either level 80, where it actually took a couple of hours and you could die, or level 90, where it took a lot less time, but you didn't die as much. I didn't really need my bear either, so I'll dismiss that. It's my bear pet. I have 4 pets. They're all really cool. So it's, my bear is named Claire because I like terrible puns, I guess. So yeah, that was the entirety Molten Core. And I just wanted to go through a bit of a nostalgia kick with it, to show you guys some stuff, and to sort of make out, yeah, various bits and pieces. And just to reminisce about World of Warcraft and the time I was playing it. Most of my good times came from before Burning Crusade came out, like what we call these days vanilla WoW. And of course, these days, you know, you have the garrison and all that kind of stuff, which is really cool. I really like what they've done with this game in Warlords of Draenor. I think it's probably the best expansion the game's had since probably Burning Crusade or maybe Wrath of the Lich King. For me, my favourite times in WoW basically come from Burning Crusade, because that was when I was mostly raiding with my friends, like real life friends and stuff. We all had a guild, and we'd usually farm Karajan, and occasionally we'd join up with other guilds and help out in, what was the name of it? The 2 other raids, the 25-man raids that I've forgotten the names of. We never got as far as Black Temple, but we'd help out in, yeah, the one in Coilfang Reservoir and the Tempest Keep, I think was the other one. I've forgotten the name of the one in Coilfang Reservoir, it's completely slipped my mind. But yeah, so, and this is my garrison, which is a feature of Warlords of Draenor, if you didn't know. You get to build your buildings and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, so I thought that was a nice, cool little run through Molten Core, and a cool little run through my garrison, obviously. And that's a really cool shoulder piece I've got at the moment, actually, the sort of big shoulder on one side and a smaller one on the other. That's just stuff I've been picking up, because the main reason they've invited us all back, of course, is for the new Tanan jungle area, and that's just stuff I've picked up doing that. A giant tree who sells things, apparently. I haven't played this game in a while, so a lot of this is new to me. If you're familiar with Hearthstone, you'll be familiar with this guy. It's Ben Brode, who is, of course, the chief designer of Hearthstone. And he will sell you, in fact, a really cool thing. Oh, wow, we got a lot of epics. Look at all those epics we picked up. I'm going to probably sell all of them. I'll keep the Dragonstalker stuff because it's good for transmog, but everything else is probably going to go away. Ben Brode sells, and I'll just show you, this is like the last thing. Where's my collection? There it is. I don't have a lot of toys, but I have a couple. And one of the things I have is this one. Yep, it's a Hearthstone board. You know, if you like Hearthstone. So that's really cool. I love that that's in the game. Bit of cross-promotion there from Blizzard. And yes, you can flip the board, which is even cooler. So, anyway, that's me reminiscing about World of Warcraft, a game I've played for almost 10 years at this point, on and off. 7 years solid, and in the last 3 years I've sort of come in and out of it a little bit. You know, occasionally I'll just buy some time, play for a month, and then dip back out again. And yeah, and it's a good game still, I think. It's still probably the best MMO I've ever played. I think I play a lot of Elder Scrolls Online and various other games these days, and I think those improve on World of Warcraft in a lot of ways, like especially in terms of gameplay and stuff like that. I don't think there's anything better than Guild Wars 2 in terms of the way an MMO plays, or Elder Scrolls Online is pretty good as well in that regard. But just for the world and for the times I've had with it, and just the out-and-out sheer Blizzardness of it, I really can't look past World of Warcraft as my favourite MMO. It just has something that those games have never had and have never been able to capture for me. And maybe it's just because I played this game first and I got into it first, or some other reason. I can't really explain it. But the truth is that World of Warcraft will probably forever be my favourite MMO, and I don't think there'll ever be another MMO where I have that sort of relationship with it, where I've had good times with my friends, and I've had you know, the really fun sort of looking around stuff and all that kind of stuff. So yeah. So anyway, thank you all for watching, and I will see you all next time.